have one question about that 5:30, Carolyn.
Okay, when
You want to ask
Tell
that
me
now
when it's
or?
appropriate.
Okay.
well, when Elizabeth opens the hearing, then we can
Okay.
do it. So after
Okay.
public comment and then when she
Okay.
opens the hearing.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, so let's get started unless it needs to come before the public comments, but
No,
if
it
not,
does
then we
not.
can, okay,
Nope.
all right. So let's get started. This is a meeting of the Northampton Zoning Board of Appeals. We have published this meeting on April 28th and May 5th.
August 25th and September 1st.
Yes, of course.
Right.
Shoot me. I know, we've been here. Yeah.
It's an old April Fool's joke. I was just
I-
bringing it back around.
Yeah, there you go. And I thought I was being
the
so clever
record.
to actually print this out, so I had it in front of me. So apologies. What were the two dates?
August 25th and September 1st.
Thank you. And it's a meeting ID. I assume this is right. 935-120-71084.
Mhm.
Is that right? No, that's just the
No,
link.
that's
just the
the-
link.
Yeah, you
Okay.
don't want to read that out.
Never mind. Okay. And let's see, I can introduce all of you later, but why don't we just do the public hearing now? If there's anybody here to open for public comments. Is there anybody in the waiting room, Carolyn?
No one except for the applicant for the 535 matter.
Okay, all right. So if there's no public comment, then why don't we proceed with the 5:30 hearing, which is a site plan amendment to extend the time to substantially start a permit by Northampton Area Pediatrics, 193 Locust Street, map ID 23B-11. So this is just to extend. Carolyn, you want to explain?
Sure. So the Northampton Area Pediatrics had to come before the zoning board and the planning board for modifications to the site to add parking and also do a little bump out. And it was a pre-existing non-conforming site. They just haven't been able to figure out construction timeline, and because of COVID, it extended it, and now they're not sure when they're going to start, but the end of their they need to just substantially start the project by February, I think, of 2023. They know they're not going to, so they just want to go ahead and get reset the date. So it'll start a new 3-year window if the zoning board, grants this amendment for them to do the work. And it's purely just to allow them more time to start the project.
Does anyone have?
And I will
questions?
also say no zoning amendments have happened between the time they applied and today. So it's not as though, the city from a policy perspective was trying to alter the allowed uses in that location. So none of the regulatory structure has been changed in that intervening time.
You read my mind. Does anyone have any other questions for Carolyn?
I do. Yep. So I don't know if it's just changed in terms of the city website's infrastructure, but I want to make sure, since it's been 4 years since this was first filed, it was 2018, that the abutters were notified, because there's a chance abutters have changed, right? So I just want to make sure abutters were newly notified of this change.
Yes, because this triggered a public hearing. So for every public hearing, there's a posting in the Gazette and notice to abutters. So for both the planning board and the zoning board amendment.
So meaning, Carolyn, they still got those postcards in the mail.
Correct. And they had to
Okay.
post the yellow sign at the street.
And I saw that. So
Okay.
my only question was that I used to see those postcards on the or whatever, the permits page, and I couldn't see it there this time. So I wondered if something had changed. So I just wasn't looking in the right place, or maybe it had not happened.
That would be my fault. It's still in my outbox that I have to transfer to
Okay.
the website. But
Okay.
yes, they went out.
So yes, it is important to me with that 4-year time span that abutters, particularly since there might be new homeowners, new property owners, would have the opportunity, because some of it, involves setback, would have the opportunity to be informed of the change.
Yeah.
Okay.
And on that note, the side in which this particular expansion was taking place is the property ownership was on the cusp of changing at the time, and the new property owner is well aware of the modifications and actually had been working with
Right.
the Northampton Area Pediatrics to coordinate site work, because that property owner was intending to make changes to his property as well.
Great. And that's what would have been the lawnmower place, and now it's something else?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That was my only question.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Motion to close the hearing?
I just want to add that I looked over the plan again and saw, I would have said it was 2 years ago, but
I know.
it's yeah, I saw nothing to be concerned about. So I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Is there a second?
Maureen, why don't you do this?
I'll second.
All
Is that
right,
what you're saying, Bob? Sure, I'll second.
roll call, Carolyn?
Sarah Northrop,
Yes.
Maureen Scanlon,
Yes.
and Elizabeth Silver.
Yes, and now we need a motion on the application.
I'll move that we approve the application to extend time to substantially start a permit by Northampton Area Pediatrics as proposed.
Is there a second?
Sure, second.
Carolyn?
Sarah Northrop. you
Yes.
vote. Maureen Scanlon
Yes.
and Elizabeth Silver.
Yes. Okay, thank
That
you.
was unanimous.
Good. Okay, moving on to the 5:35 hearing. We do have the applicant's representative here. This is a request for a special permit for a larger sign for Cooley Dickinson, map ID 23B-46. So Mr. Auerbach, you're here representing the hospital? Hello, can you hear me? He seems frozen, actually.
Hey, Harry.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can send a message.
He's got to figure it out by now. He probably thinks
Yeah.
we're all frozen. Oh, there he is.
Okay.
Okay, you're back.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, you froze there on us for a
Yeah,
minute.
and as you did as well, and like, okay, it's probably on my end. So I'll start from the
Yeah,
beginning.
Yeah,
My name is
yeah.
Harry Auerbach. I'm with Agnoli Sign, 722 Worthington Street in Springfield, Mass. Presenting on behalf of Cooley Dickinson, which, as you would probably all know, is part of Massachusetts General Brigham, MGB. And the request is for some new signage. There's actually, we have put forward a permit request to John Flagg, and this one was denied because it is a secondary or second sign on the building itself, a second set of channel letters. So because there's already a set that he approved that faces Locust Street, he requested that we come before the ZBA for a special permit.
Okay, so do you want to tell us a little bit about the sign?
Certainly. The new sign are what we call channel letters. So light is emitted out the front of the letter. Carolyn, does the ZBA have a copy of the design itself, or or,
Yes, so,
Yeah.
and also if you want to share your screen, you can. Otherwise, I was gonna go and I can pull this up on my screen if you can't pull it up on your screen, but I gave you co-host. If you
and if you could, that would be wonderful.
Okay,
That would be very helpful.
so. Okay, so hang on just a second. I'll screen
Mhm.
share this. Okay, can you see that? Did everybody see the?
Yeah,
Yes.
there we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are, yeah, thank you, Carolyn. These are channel letters, and the same set of channel letters are on the side that faces or parallel to Locust Street. And when we in the sign industry, when we say channel letters, there are backlit or frontlit. This is front lit, so light will come out the front of the letters, if you will. There is an acrylic face. It is white. You can see the logo. They're internally lit. This view is the same that faces Locust Street. So two sets of channel letters.
What do you mean, Harry? I'm sorry. Two sets, meaning what is the set we're not seeing
Okay.
right now?
The one on Locust Street, which was approved by John Flagg. Carolyn, correct me if I'm wrong, that we're allowed to have one set of letters, and because they want two sets of letters, with
Yes.
the same message, we're
Okay,
required.
so you were replacing an existing Cooley Dickinson Hospital channel lettering with one that's Mass General Brigham and Cooley Dickinson as sort of the sub-brand now.
That is
So
correct.
that the sign matches the same on perpendicular walls.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Maureen. That was,
But this one's totally
said.
new, right?
this one is
Yeah.
totally new.
Okay.
There was no sign there previously.
And what's
Yeah.
the size of this one? Because I don't think it was on the application.
Bear with me. So the logo, the height of the logo is 48 inches. The height of the M or the capitals are 21 inches. And Cooley, the capitals in Cooley, Dickinson and Hospital, CDH, are 13 inches.
Okay, but that doesn't give us the square footage of the sign.
Square footage, bear with me, and I can tell you from John's, what we submitted to John. So the one that's being replaced, the Cooley Dickinson Hospital, there's the square footage is 115 square feet, if you will. So it is a 4 by 28 foot, 8 inch sign, 4 feet tall, 28 feet, 8 inches in length, if you will, 115 square feet.
And then, so Carolyn, can you remind us what is out of variance that brings us to the table?
Yes, so there's sort of two ways to look at this. So if the second sign, if these are identical, then this would be 115 square feet on, it would be either a larger than, it'd be two things. One is a second sort of front wall sign because of the building orientation, sort of faces two directions along the street.
Right.
Or you could call this a sidewall sign, and then the variation between what the minimum size is 25 square feet up to 115 square feet. So it's either two front wall, you're adding a second front wall sign, or they're asking for a larger sign than would be allowed as a sidewall sign. But the standard for review is the same. It's a special permit, and the review would be relative to the orientation, the size, the setback of the building is such that it warrants a sign that's larger or more signs than is allowed by right.
Got it.
Any other questions?
This has nothing to do with Agnoli's role in this, but in driving by today, I saw that the site you're placing that sign in, it has very limited visibility because of a big oak tree and a big maple tree. And like, any thoughts on, is that the best place to put that sign? I'm just thinking, like, I think this is really important to Cooley to introduce the, like, if you're introducing Mass General Brigham and Cooley gets sort of second stage, how you present that is really important. And I want to support our hospital as best we can, but I want to make sure people will see it.
And
Good
Maureen,
point.
yeah, you bring up a good point. This was presented to, by there's a company, DCL, that has actually designed it. And I think where it is most noticeable is when you are at the light and you see both walls very well. In terms of another location, that I would have to go back to. That's not my control.
Right. You might start addressing that by street signage, by navigational signage.
And again, good point. We have. There is directional signage that's being replaced with MGB directional signage.
Okay, again, way beyond our jurisdiction, but I want to support the hospital as best as possible.
Yeah.
That's
you.
sort of the view from the signal where you can see the ground sign here and both corners of that. I guess during the winter, there won't be a problem since this is a deciduous tree.
Most definitely. And Maureen, to your point, if we're with Carolyn's picture, I think the only other opportunity would be to the left of the north entrance, but it's so far deep in, it would carry the weight. So,
yeah. All right. I'm just thinking it through right now as I drove by today.
You bring up good points.
I
As
was
always.
approaching from Prospect, that kind of crazy intersection, which is a very traversed, well-traveled intersection, and you don't see it from there. But you're right. The hospital is positioned in a way that there's no one primary approach.
No, well, I think, and now I'm challenged as to the name of the street as we drive up.
Locust,
I'm sorry?
Locust?
Locust?
Locust Street, thank you. I should.
Great,
I think Locust Street is.
nice, Bob.
Yeah, help me out. Locust Street is obviously the primary, and I drive up, when I come off the highway, I always come up Prospect Street, and it dumps me right in front. So you will see the sign that's parallel to Locust. So, I hear what you're saying. I think this is the best of what what's available.
Yeah.
To the point of what is our jurisdiction, this application is because of, while the building inspector's note is that it appears to be 114 square feet, whereas the limit was 100. So was there discussion of decreasing the sign by a percentage
Right.
to get it down to 100 square feet?
No, there was not that direction, because I think the tack that our approach was, it's a secondary sign that is mimicking the other sign. We had a similar situation 3 years ago or 2 years ago with another building on King Street that, again, an exact same side A equaled side B. And again, I think as Carolyn presented to us, we're here for, we can be here for two reasons. Either it's too big or it's a second sign. Am I saying that correctly, Carolyn?
That's true.
Yep. So and again, I think to Maureen's point, if you we're only reducing by 5 square feet, but as you reduce the visibility. So they, and they want parity, or side A versus side B. So And again, I'm going or presenting based on it's a second sign on the building. That's kind of what I had basing this request on, as opposed to square
And
footage.
that said, Harry, it will be similar in size to what's on the corner facing wall, right?
It's exactly the same size, 115
Okay,
square feet.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
But to Sarah's, question, could we go down 5 square feet rather than lose that square footage? If it falls under, you need special permit to have a second sign. I'd rather pursue it that way.
Understood. My next concern is about our general slow creep of excess light pollution. Of course, this is a very important facility. Everybody needs to be able to find it. Not that they particularly, well, I don't know that anybody has trouble finding it actually, but so it's a fair request, and I also am concerned that we don't need it to be as bright as parking lot lighting, or you know what I mean. Often we have
well,
some. It doesn't really take as much to be really visible, quite clearly visible at night. And I've seen a lot of things a lot brighter than they need to be, and it becomes a glare problem.
Well, again, Sarah, very fair comment. We use LEDs, and the LEDs are behind an acrylic face that really diffuses the light, so it really cuts it down. It's not like,
I understand that.
yeah, it's not like a parking light. That's not the word. I mean, that's not the way I want to say it.
Right. I
A parking
understand
lot light. Yeah,
the
those are
LEDs and the diffusion of the white. I suppose it's acrylic face.
right. Where, to your point, the lights in parking lots, you can see those LEDs. I mean, they are bright.
Mhm.
This will not be as bright, and I know it won't be an issue. Case in
And
point,
of course, if it is, someone will bring it up.
someone will bring it up, and we could tone it down.
In which case, it would make sense that the actual fixture LED, I don't know if they call it a ballast or what, but would be potentially dimmable in case that bridge comes up.
Yeah, you're using the perfect word, dimmable. We did a project on 155
Pleasant Street.
right, and those were dimmable because those were very bright, and we had put a dimmer in it. But I don't think this should not be an issue.
So this is a 24/7 light.
If allowed, yes, it should be. I mean, especially because it's the hospital. I don't know if there are going to be any restrictions, but during the day, the LEDs are on, but you would know it. Obviously, at dusk through dawn, it would be illuminated.
Any
Well,
other
given the
questions?
Given the nature of the facility, I think that's appropriate.
No, I mean, we still have the opportunity to discuss amongst ourselves on the,
Yes. Yeah.
Committee?
This is
Yeah.
just any questions while we still have the hearing open.
I don't have any further questions.
I have no questions.
Okay. Sarah, you okay?
Hmm.
All right.
Yes.
Mr. Auerbach, is there anything else you wanted to add, or we're going to
No.
close the public hearing and then it will just be those of us on the board that can discuss this?
I guess the only, I mean, first of all, thank you for letting me present. Hopefully I've answered your questions sufficiently. What is the next step? Do I step away, close out
No,
the video?
No, stay with us. It's just when we close the public hearing, the folks, those of us on the zoning board will discuss the merits and then make a motion on the request. So no, you're
Understood.
welcome to stay with us.
Okay.
All right. So is there a motion to close the public hearing?
You
So
want to
moved.
do this one too, Maureen?
Sure. I'll move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Carolyn? You're
It's
muted.
I'm trying to be polite.
Sarah Northrop,
Yes.
Maureen Scanlon,
Yes.
and Elizabeth Silver.
Yes. And discussion?
Yeah, just my observation coming from the sort of visibility and branding perspective, which is my field, is that this is a major change for Cooley to become the sub-brand of Mass General Brigham. And our community's affiliation is to Cooley. So I think it's important that we retain signage that makes Cooley still very visible. So I would support this because if it went any smaller, Cooley would just be this little like mouse print, you know, and I think it needs to be really visible.
Know what
I
you mean.
agree.
I really like the way Cooley kind of campaign they had, and my son was born there. We all have a very strong connection to it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe someday our connection will be to Mass General Brigham, but that's way off and we don't want to lose the connection we already have. So I don't want to minimize the presence of the Cooley Dickinson label, brand name, as we step away from that hierarchy.
Yes.
And I think this submitted design, including having it come from both angles, does it really respectfully.
Any
I
other-
agree.
So we're dealing with the standard of the additional sign would not detract from the character of the neighborhood and should be permitted in the public interest, right, Carolyn?
Correct.
And they should be granted if there are exceptional circumstances to warrant their approval. And if all efforts are undertaken to keep additional ground signs as, well, it's not a ground sign, so never mind that. But I would agree with the comments that have been made so far. And given that it's only a few feet over the actual maximum amount, I don't see that as a problem either. So I throw my support also. And if we have any other comments, great. If not, we could have a motion to on the application.
I'll move that we approve the special permit for a larger sign, Magnolia signs for Cooley Dickinson Hospital, as presented.
Do you want to add anything about the lighting, the dimmable feature to be included?
Well, yes, I was kind of going on him saying it will be dimmable as part of the presentation, but that would be I think that's a fair thing to include, yes.
So automatic dimming at night, is that what you're saying, Sarah?
Well, I'm not sure the exact way they want to do it. I was more concerned about the overall dimmability
In the future, if
case of
there's,
the larger issue. What was that, Bob?
in the future, if there's a problem, if someone complains, you'd want it to be dimmable rather than going through some major process, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you just want to make sure that there's dimming capability.
Exactly.
Is that what you're, okay,
Yes. Condition that there is dimming capability of the LED fixtures.
okay.
Is there a second?
Sure, second.
Okay,
Okay, Sarah Northrop,
Yes.
Maureen Scanlon,
Yes.
and Elizabeth Silver.
yes. All right, so the request is approved.
you so much.
And Carolyn can fill you in on the follow-up. from here.
Yeah, once the decision is sent to the clerks, I'll send you a copy and I'll have the appeal deadline. For that.
And if I'm not mistaken, there's a calendar, 20-day calendar that allows for public response or objection if the case may be.
Appeal.
So, and that is calendar as opposed to, Monday through Friday. And then
Right.
after, I'm sorry.
Right,
And
so
then
it's calendar appeal 20 calendar days, and then you can pick up the decision from the clerk and record, and then go back to the building department for the permit.
For the permit. And correct me if I'm wrong, that special permit decision needs to be registered with the
Yes.
Hampshire,
Right.
not Hamden, but Hampshire County Registry of Deeds.
Correct.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. I remembered from 2 years ago. That's pretty good. All things aside. So if I may say, thank you so much on behalf of Cooley Dickinson, and I greatly appreciate it, and appreciate your comments about capable to be dimmed, and Maureen, the comment about Cooley Dickinson going away but still being part of I agree with you in terms of the importance, and I really believe, I'd like to believe that MGB sees that. Because all the signage that we're going to be doing recognizes that Cooley Dickinson is still part of, MGB. And if
Maybe you should get them to invert the names and put Cooley Dick on top.
Well, that has been the case, Elizabeth, for a few years.
Pre-approval.
The subline said a Mass General affiliate, Cooley
Right.
Dickinson Hospital. So this is their move to flip it.
Right.
So
Exactly.
it's happening. It is happening. Yeah.
That's
It is.
progress.
So-
Yeah.
Anyway,
So
thank you.
thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
And
Thank you.
if, may I
You're all
depart?
set. You're
I'm
all
all
set.
set.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. No relation to
Thank you.
red,
Thank you.
right?
I'm sorry.
Harry? No relation to red, right?
Well, actually, I used to sit on Uncle Bill's knee. That would be Bill Russell. And the more I go, the more lies I'm telling. I actually met Bill. I met Bill once. It was in the 60s when they were playing an exhibition game at the Coliseum at the Big E. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but and my father said to me, and I regret to this day that I did what he told me. He says, "You go say hello to Bill and tell him your name." So I went to say hello to Bill, and I said, "My last name is Auerbach." And he looked at me. This is how I remember it. He goes, "So?" And it's, of course, it's halftime. He has no interest,
Right.
my understanding is he could have been, he was a cantankerous man anyways. But it was kind of devastating. But,
I don't think he really was when it came to the big issues, but
it was a very talented man. No regrets, but it is a fun story. And I only get past when I used to sit on Uncle Bill's knee and then I start feeling guilty,
you
Thank
never
for
know.
asking. It's a fun
You
story.
never know. All right. Well, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you all.
Take care.
Carolyn, do we have any other business?
I don't think. we have
No other
anything.
business, but I have a quick poll. How do you guys feel about going in person at any point?
I feel we should.
I don't
would
want
favor
to.
it. I would favor it.
Okay,
You're asking for a poll. I would favor it.
okay.
I oppose. I continue to
Okay.
oppose and think this is way too contagious to be messing around in person.
I just don't know, personally.
Anyone who doesn't want to be at a personal meeting can be on Zoom yet, but we could have meetings, and then people who didn't feel comfortable being there could still be on Zoom. They run
Well-
classes that way and everything.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that what we're doing with the planning board and what we've done with Central Business Architecture is to have a Zoom component, but just for people to view and listen and not take public comment. Because if you're taking public comment from in the room and on Zoom, you basically are running 2 different meetings, and it's really much more complicated that way. So what we're doing with planning board tonight, for example, is that people can certainly watch and listen, but if you want to send comments, you either email it before or you show up for the meeting.
So Carolyn, do you have any sense, it's as much, if not more important, how that decision weighs into the public participation? So rather than, what we want.
Yeah.
So what's happening with the planning board? Are you finding that people want to come to a meeting and they're more likely to participate?
Well, so what happened is they started in April or May, and then in June, when Omicron really sort of picked up, they went back to Zoom only. And then tonight's the first night they're going back in person. But I can say that we've still had a variation, some people coming in person and then some people just watching and observing from home, which I think provides a new opportunity that wasn't present before COVID for people to at least know what's going on and see into, the public hearing process. Of course, there's always been the opportunity to email comments about any project. So that's still available if people don't feel like coming in person, but they have something to say. So they can still do that. But I think it's too soon to really know, what the split is in terms of how many people are. It also depends on the hearing, right? Sometimes there's nobody that comes for the hearing. And then other times people do want to come. So I don't have enough data really to tell you.
Okay. So to me, it's all about participation. I mean, Zoom works great for me, like for many reasons, but I want to make sure it's not like exclusionary to the general public.
To me, it's about more than just participation. It's also about the well-being of people who are gathering together in close quarters in person.
Yeah.
And you can't ignore what's going on in the pandemic. So it also takes a lot longer and time and gas and carbon footprint to meet in person. And I would have to think seriously about continuing on the board if the move was to in-person meetings. I don't see any good reason to do it. Participation, I can't imagine that there's been, and I certainly haven't heard about anybody who hasn't been able to participate because of this being virtual. It's possible that there are some, and we don't know about that because obviously they haven't shown up. So that is possible, but I think that this is as accessible as anything else. So I want to continue doing it by Zoom.
How would you feel about hybrid?
I think Carolyn's right. I don't think that works so well. I think it's too complicated. So I think we need to make a decision. Bob, why are you in favor of meeting in person?
Well, for me, it's all about ignorance, and I live in a state of bliss.
I live off of Bliss Street.
No, I'm just throwing that out there. I do the polls, and people come and vote in person, and we try to be as careful as we can. And there hasn't really been any issue. I know this is really contagious and everything, but I don't have any reason not to meet in person. That's all I'm saying.
So if we met in person, would we all be wearing masks or not?
I think it would be a personal choice.
Yeah.
If the meeting's going more than 10 minutes and we're and that's the thing about the democratic process. You don't know. If you start off, we like to be efficient. We pride ourselves in being an efficient board. But sometimes there's more public comment is important to give people the space for that. And then you end up with, a whole bunch of people with their hackles up, getting in each other's faces, and then it drags out.
Well, I guess, thank you for all of this. I guess to me, it's more like if there's any opportunity that meeting in person would encourage more community resident involvement, then that's enough reason to consider it. I like the convenience of Zoom. Here I am with my first, positive COVID test this morning. So I also like the safety of Zoom. I have hearing loss, so I can hear much better all of the communication by Zoom. But I guess my question is, are we discouraging or missing a level of community involvement by just doing this virtually? I don't know.
I mean, I think the issue with permit review is actually one of difficulty in communicating together through squares on the screen. And and viewing plans and talking about those things. So that's what I think is difficult about the permitting hearings on Zoom. And though we've had a lot of people participate in public hearings, that it also was harder to maintain decorum in a Zoom setting. And so that is not helpful for the democratic process either. And so there's that side that makes it, I think, better to be in person and to have that sort of face-to-face communication. But I think it's going to be board by board decision, and it sounds like there's not consensus, and David's not here, so we can certainly put it off until a couple more months, and maybe this variant dies down and things chill out for a while, and maybe there'll be a point at which people will feel much more comfortable about that. So, it wasn't intended, this conversation wasn't intended to be sort of a final discussion, but I just wanted to put it out there because, I think it's important to sort of keep that in mind, that we have, that there are boards going back to in-person.
Well, I would just point out that if we were meeting in person tonight, we wouldn't have a quorum because I would assume that Maureen and Sarah would stay home.
Right.
So we wouldn't be able to have met tonight.
Right. If it was hybrid, we could have been involved.
No. Again, I think that's too complicated, so.
I think hybrid is too complicated also.
Right.
And, but I agree with Maureen. I think that we should move back toward meeting in person at some point, but certainly there's not any agreement at this point,
So maybe every 3 to 6 months, we revisit the topic.
sounds good to me.
Let me just check in. So given we are still in the public hearing or meeting, excuse me, and recording, is it okay for us to discuss this outside of the public meeting, excuse me?
Yeah, so
David.
meeting logistics are okay to do over email.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
All right, very good.
All right, so it's on the table for now. We'll come back at some point to revisit. And there are no minutes, so I think we've concluded tonight very efficiently. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion, we adjourn. How's that?
Okay.
That's great, Bob. Thank you.
Second.
All right,
Sarah,
Carolyn.
that was second. Okay, Sarah Northup,
Yes.
Bob Riddle,
Yes.
and Elizabeth Silver.
Yes,
Great. Thank you all, and we'll see you next time.
thank
I'll
you.
send
How
out
are
an
you?
email for that.
Can you stop recording, Carolyn? And